Christian Ponder, quarterback, Florida State.
Coming to you now in mid-quality audio, brought to you in part by FNS Delivers. From your Vikings game day headquarters, right Mandarin at the Eden Prairie Center. It's football talk like you've never heard before. Get ready for America's favorite Minnesota Vikings podcast. With your hosts, Sticky.
I really hated what he did. I hope he starts on fire.
And Buns.
You have gotten naked and are standing right in front of me and are doing thrust.
It's the Sticky Buns Fun Time Happy Football Program. Ladies and gentlemen, Sticky and Bun.
I can't do it.
You can't stop laughing when I count down.
I can't. Well, you already had me laughing when I called you Sweet Cheeks and told me you never wanted to hear that ever in life. And then you counted. And now I got to say Sweet Cheeks.
Yep. You're pretty happy you got to fit that in, aren't you?
I am.
Just slide that in under the radar a little bit.
I do what I can.
So.
Final game of the season.
Yes. And they did a wonderful job.
A wonderful job.
I mean, they won.
They did win.
And some players did a wonderful job.
Some players played well.
I
thought overall,
specifically,
the team, especially on offense, looked like they were in slow motion, especially the first half.
Okay. Yeah, I think both teams looked in slow motion the first half. It was weird.
Yeah, and that's where I told you, because you got all mad at me, and I said it didn't look like Zimmer got these guys excited to play. I thought after last week he would be on them, and they would be very excited about putting a different showing on the field, especially on defense. And the defense played well against a team that has given up and doesn't care and just wanted to get Forte the record. But overall, the team just looked like it was in slow motion, and you got mad at me when I said that.
I think it's... Yeah, you did say that, but I think you are... You're a bit mistaken in your assumption that Zimmer apparently did not get the team ready to go, because you were missing a rather large faction of your team. In fact, Zimmer,
compared to last week? Last week, yeah. I didn't think they looked...
Even compared to last week, Zimmer said this is the first time in his career, in any level, he has only been able to suit up 4 linebackers. One of them was on the practice squad 2 days ago and suited up. Not just
he didn't play.
He might have had to at one point.
Okay, but that's not the offense. You're talking about 2 linebackers. That's not a lot, especially when both those guys. Watt played 6 plays last week. Losing him was not this huge issue.
I'm not talking about losing Watt. You also had your 3rd linebacker as the green dot linebacker. 3rd. Audie Cole was your green dot linebacker.
Audie Cole played last week. A lot.
But he is your 3rd linebacker. He is not your 1st string, not your 2nd string.
He's kind of our 2nd string.
Have you been doing coke? Have you been drinking heavily today?
When they moved Hodges to back up Barr, they moved Cole to back up.
Technically not accurate, but continue.
He took Barr's spot.
He did, but he also took Greenway's spot earlier.
But he didn't play Greenway's spot during any games recently.
No, because Greenway was there.
They moved him to Barr's spot.
They had him backing up the primary. He was the primary backup for basically all of the spots, except for middle. So whenever one of them went down, luckily not at the same time.
Okay, but then if you're going to say one guy is the backup at 2 spots, to say we're going to our 3rd string guy, I mean, that feels a little cheap.
This is a guy who could not get in, even just a play or 2. 0. He played special teams.
Yeah, he played special teams.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
And he was your green dot. You know that means he had to line everyone up. Like, he was in charge of calling the plays.
It's not like, I mean, boy, I didn't expect us to argue about this so quickly. But the idea that we had injuries throughout the team, but I mean, you're talking guys who played pretty extensively last week. Audie Cole played a good most of the second half.
A good most of the second half?
Most of the second half.
Okay.
So to say it was that huge difference from last week doesn't feel accurate.
Yeah, I think it is. It's different when you're thrown in and you're.
It's a lot better if you have a week to prepare.
I suppose, but you basically went into this week without knowing you weren't going to have Anthony Barr. Okay, because you
Which
said
you've known for quite a while.
right. Like I said, you knew, but you didn't know you weren't going to have Chad Greenway. You found that out basically after the game.
We found that out.
Well, if he played last week, they don't know that he's not going to be able to play.
I think they knew before that game started. I think they knew most of the week. I think they practiced like they didn't expect him back, would be my guess, because I don't think...
Most of which week?
This last week.
Sure, but a week of throwing someone from the very bottom of the pile up to the green dot is not a week. That's like 3 minutes of prep time. That's not enough. And I think Audie might be smart. He sounds a little dumb on the radio, but I think he might be smart.
Okay, here's the thing. Audie Cole wasn't the one playing in slow motion.
Okay.
Audie Cole played actually pretty well.
He did. I'll up my players to 3 players then. He did play pretty well. I think he had like 13 or 14 tackles, 1 for a loss, a fake interception, and something else. Oh, a pass defense.
Yeah. And that was a nice pass defense.
In our fantasy football league, he would have scored 100 points. Just him alone. You were missing insanely large chunks of your team.
Most of which were missing last week.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're still...
that justifies poor play. I understand that, but I'm saying going in slow motion.
But, okay. So let's back this train up a bit. Okay. When you draft someone and...
Oh, wow, we are backing this up a ways.
Oh, we're going back to square one, my friend. Okay, when you first draft someone and you see some stuff that's good, but you see a lot of stuff that's bad, and you see that they're slow to react, right? It's because they have natural instincts, but they don't know what's going on quite yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is exactly... It doesn't matter when you're missing these players. Could be week 2, could be week 7, could be week 15, okay? The point is, when you miss them, you're going to have that same blockage where, yes, maybe they had the whole year to look at stuff, but they haven't been in that position where they actually have to be the reactors.
But again, Audie Cole was not a guy moving in slow motion.
Sure.
It was mostly on offense, honestly. Although I did think our defensive line didn't look particularly special. They didn't get any sacks.
Do we know that Audie was calling out the right plays the right way?
He doesn't call the plays for... He seems to. I mean, generally, if someone calls the plays very badly, we saw that last week against Miami. We saw what happens when plays aren't being called in time, aren't correct.
When did we see that?
Last week, when we gave up 37 points to Miami.
You make these blanket statements. We saw that they didn't call the plays right because we gave up 37 points. That's a
we
large
know the plays were
blanket. That's
called
like a
wrong
grandma's
because
quilt.
Zimmer was saying that.
That is not what he said.
He basically said it. He said, I don't understand why those players were lining up where they were. And then he took the green dot away from Hodges, who has been starting for the last month, and gave it to a guy who saw half a game worth of play. I think there's a message in that.
Zimmer is I mean, 2 inches to the left, and you're aligned wrong. And he also said that he may have put too much stuff in, he just didn't know. So which is it? Do you think it's your giganto grandma's quilt of a statement where obviously we called every call wrong because we gave up 37 points?
Called wrong. Our defense did not play well last week.
That's different than anything you've said up to this point.
And I think that when you have a defense that suddenly played horribly...
Suddenly?
Yes.
Really? You realize at the last week's podcast we talked about how they weren't that good of a defense? And now they've suddenly played horribly?
They weren't. I think we have overrated them, is what I said.
When you're ranked in the 20s,
that was Pro Football Focus.
That was
Outsiders.
Outsiders.
No, that was Football Outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
And we both agreed with it.
Okay, fine. I think there was evidence that part of the problem last week, based on Zimmer's statements, was people were lined up wrong, and the fact that it was done with a guy who doesn't normally have a green dot and who had the green dot taken away from him for a guy who has not been playing is highly suggestive. It's almost as if you take 2 steps on someone's ankle and then put all your weight on the foot. Maybe I can't guarantee in a court of law there was intent there.
I challenge you. Objection.
But there's strong intent. They did not act as a team. I don't know. I'm trying to use the language they use for Sue, obviously, and I'm trying to form that into this.
Can we just cuddle? I'll take mine off if you take yours.
Why do it? Okay.
And
I've lost my train of thought, so go.
Okay. I know the answer is yes, but it's really no. Have you ever played organized sports? Have you ever played competitive organized sports?
Yeah.
Like I said, I know the answer is yes, but it's really no. So, a lot of these players, it was said to me, and I thought it was very interesting. At almost every point in their careers, they're the stars, they're great, they're taking their teams to beautiful places. Even in college, the last game of the season is a bowl game. Not many. I mean, you've got an Adam Thielen, but not many players are from such lower ranked colleges that they're not doing that. So they're always ending on a high note. They're always ending on a time when it's actually competitive, when you're trying to gain something. This is not the case. You have 0 to gain. Great, a win-loss. Fantastic. You always want to win the game. That's fantastic. But what are you going to do about it? What if you get hurt? What if you are the star defensive tackle for the Jaguars and you tear your ACL in the last game? And then you have an entire offseason of problems. So it is different.
So now we've gone away from the injury excuse and we've gone to the last game of the season. No one cares.
Not at all. These are going to be woven together like a tightly knit wrapping. So if you think about it, you've got, for the first time, you have a completely meaningless game. It is exactly like preseason. Because all they want to do is put on tape. They just want to look good for the team or someone else. Now, some of that is going to be looking good for your current team and showing them that you're capable of doing what they told you need to do. But you also need to stand out a little more because the chances of this entire team coming back next year is about 1%. Maybe less.
It's definitely less.
Maybe, what, 1/1000th of a percent?
Sure.
I mean, actually, it's going to be 0 unless, I guess, you trade all of your draft picks for money. That's the only way it's going to happen. Because otherwise you're guaranteed to bring in one person. So you've got this enigma of a game that means absolutely nothing to anyone. Both sides. Doesn't mean anything to the coaches. They're using it to evaluate. They're not going to be fired, at least on our side. Too bad they fired the wrong person on the other side. They should have fired their quarterback.
I think that's harder to do.
Oh, it's way harder to do. Well, they should just fire all of them. And then you've got the problem where you're used to a certain level of play and a certain expectation level, and now you've got a bunch of people in there that really they have no business being in there, and some of them have been in there for weeks, but it's like George Bush. You can only fool us for so many weeks until we really know who you are. I like Joe Berger. I said maybe he could push for a starting job. He's not a starting offensive lineman. Charlie Johnson, not a starting offensive lineman.
It still bothers me that we brought him back this year.
I laughed with my dad at the introductions because the only side of the offensive line you probably didn't want to stay on the whole year was the only one who did. you've got all these pieces that don't really go together, and you have nothing to play for. Nothing. If Zimmer loses it, what happens? He's probably sad. He gets over his life, and he goes to work. Maybe takes a couple weeks off. All the players, same thing. They've been eliminated for weeks now, so most of them have bought their tickets. I know Brian Robinson. He had his farewell lunch today. I gave it to him, shook his hand. He looks really weird with short hair. A lot of them are like that. It's just it's been over for a while. It doesn't really matter. So how in competitive sports, when you are put up into a spot where the gain just doesn't exist for something that's incredibly physical, it is really difficult to perform at a high level with the same ounce and care that you had even in the previous week. It's just, you just can't do it. You can.
You can do it if you really love your coach.
No, because it's not that simple. And it's difficult.
Oh, it's definitely difficult.
But you seem to think it's because Zimmer didn't get them ready to play.
I just expected different. Now, maybe it was wrong of me to expect too much.
Only person in the planet.
I expected that they would come out with a little bit more fire after embarrassing themselves last week on defense.
And the defense played really well. They held on 9 points.
They held a team that has entirely given up and gave up a month ago. And they played well. I would have liked to see more sacks, more big plays, but they played very well. I agree.
They held an offensively explosive team. They have playmakers. They essentially held them to 6 points because the 3 points was they got it down to the 2-yard line and they held them on a 3-and-out and made them kick a field goal after an interception. So you cannot. We talked previously that 17. If you hold them to 17, you're a good defensive team. This was essentially 6. This was less than half of that. So the defense played great. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they don't do sacks. Zimmer's not a sack team.
His teams get sacks generally. There's not usually one guy, but it was never we don't get sacks.
And we did have a sack. We had one.
We had one. That's right. Wooten got one and did his robot dance.
Absolutely. How did you forget?
How did I forget the robot dance?
The dumbest, greatest robot in the history of mankind.
Off topic, how did you enjoy your first game without me?
It was a little depressing.
Was it? You missed me?
I'm not sure miss is the
because I texted adjective. You anyhow. I should have given you a full bun-free day.
No, you shouldn't have. First off, that's impossible because I would have egged the bun to be around. Didn't I send you a message?
In
first?
fact, I think you did send me.
I'm positive I did.
Yes,
I'm positive I did. There were multiple points in the game where I said to everyone around me, including complete strangers, this is the time when the bun is going to send me a message. And it didn't happen, and I almost cried. So then I had the perfect opportunity to send you one, and it was love at first sight after that. We were basically married. And I told my dad that you were in postseason form. And then I let him read it, and we all laughed.
I'm glad.
But sometimes when you send messages, you send all of the messages. Like, all the messages in the world are sent at once. And I don't.
It's very easy when I have a keyboard.
Yeah, but I don't have time to read all that. I got a game to watch. I'm literally at the game. I'm enjoying the show. My trainer went. He thanked you. Oh, actually, he wants to beat you up.
Does he?
Yes.
He thanked me and then wants to beat me up. Excellent.
Well, it was not a nice thanking. He said, tell the bun, thanks for not buying a fucking seat. Because, it was cold. And
did he stand up the whole game? Because that's what you have to do, except for this was a terrible game to stand up the whole time. I didn't even think about that till just now.
We did stand up. I mean, it was cold.
All right.
Do you want to talk to the other side of the ball where you had major issues?
Offense just seemed like it was slow.
Well, I mean, you did have basically one of the greatest performances by a Viking running back in Viking history.
No, it was not that.
91 yards, or was it 92?
91.
And, I am certainly ready to anoint him the starter, as I obviously told you.
Yeah.
Career day.
And Sid Hartman is apparently with you.
I couldn't think of a better person to be on my side for that.
You saw I posted that headline.
I did. I'm going to respond, but I want to respond as Luke. I don't want to respond as Sticky Buns. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay, I'm looking forward to
and
that.
then obviously I'm going to share it to everyone.
Yeah.
As yes, sir.
He certainly plays well against teams that have given up. Because he did the same thing last year in the last week of the season against Detroit.
Now, I can't say... Last year, I agree with you. I cannot say that with accuracy this year because he did some things. He wiggled.
He did. There was a little bit of speed to him. It was weird. It's like he put in a doppelganger. I'm not entirely sure. What?
Are we really? We're really referencing Matt Asiata with speed and
it was
wiggle.
Weird. It was really weird. My favorite
part was after he had established
he made a cut and went outside.
Yeah.
He cut to the outside.
Wait. So he'd been doing that for a little while, and we were just, no one knew what to do. We were just like, oh my God. And then he went to the outside like a straight run, and he made the move like, I'm going to cut it back all the way around you silly suckers. And I was like, you're not. No, you're Matt Asiata. And he was immediately tackled. And I was like, yep, you lost 9 yards on that play. Congratulations. So, yeah, he has wiggle. He has burst. He finally figured out how to use it. Let's go. Game on. What do you think? You like that? I think you love it.
He'll be back next year. He's a restricted free agent. So they'll be able to get him for nothing.
How much did you cry inside when you saw that beautiful wiggle?
I just was confused. It's just like, what the hell is this? Don't tease us before the end of the season. Don't, give these coaches something. Don't give Norv Turner another reason to give you carries. Stop this. Stop it.
You should not look at Jerome Felton's Twitter then.
Oh, he was all excited about his boy getting yards because Felton actually saw a lot more carries, it felt like, this week than he had.
He had a fullback sneak.
He did.
I appreciated that. That's been a long time since I've seen that.
Probably should have done that on that 4th and 1 play, too.
Well, your favorite Matt Asiata, he did say that it was completely his fault. He went the wrong way.
Well, yeah.
You don't even know that was said or the actual case.
No, I heard him say, I heard that he took blame for that failing.
He did, 100% blame.
So I wasn't sure. I foolishly trusted you on the rest of that quote. Maybe it was false.
Which quote?
That he went the wrong way.
Yeah, he did. He said it. He apologized to Zimmer.
Okay. Yeah. Jennings had weird drops.
I mean, he had one.
He had 2 drops.
The other one was behind him. I mean,
that's what he usually catch it.
Sure, but
that's the reason I like him.
But you can't. His motion was in the opposite direction. It's not like he just had to reach his arms, and he still had a chance. But that's not a real catchable ball. That's a Teddy fault.
You're gonna give a blame to Teddy.
Theodore, you got to put the other place. And Theodore's like, I'm just trying not to look that good, guys. Just relax.
That's what he was trying to do.
I'm trying to give the Vikings a discount for future contract negotiations. Remember that time against the Bears, the last game of your rookie season? We're not going to be able to give you that $100,000 bonus. That's how that's going to go.
Did you hear Tom Brady was giving back $24 million?
I haven't gotten that far on my Twitter. I saw the headline, but I'm not surprised.
I was hoping he'd be mad at them because they pretty much just throw away. They don't surround him with talent anymore.
They do, but they do it in a different. They do it in more of a by committee. So even look back to the Super Bowl wins. Look at who he was surrounded by. He wasn't surrounded by talent. He was surrounded by committees.
They had a pretty good defense back then.
They had a really good defense, which they have a kind of a good defense. They had some parts missing. What was the linebacker's name? They've got Chandler Jones and they got Vince Wilfork. They got their middle linebacker. I can't remember his name. He's a really good one too. They lost him for the season. They've got some good defensive backs. They have a good defense. Just not quite as suffocating as that Super Bowl run. But that was difficult. And they don't have Troy Brown, who is, doing both ways, and they got Julian Edelman, who is a bit weird and crazy as the new Wes Welker type guy. Yeah, they could have drafted Cordero Patterson. I don't remember who they drafted instead. Should we trade him?
I thought we weren't allowed to talk about this.
Okay. I told Mr. Bunn that the things we couldn't talk about today were recapping the season and off-season moves. I am not actually referencing off-season moves. That was a ridiculous, stupid question.
Is it?
It is, and I fully anticipated you not getting that, and so I wanted to laugh about that. But not a serious discussion. We will have a serious discussion about CP84. Just not now. Although...
Well, we could... His performance again this week was...
Was there a performance? Was there?
There was a play.
A play.
The play.
How did
on
it look
which he gave up immediately.
How did it... So from where we sit, it's in the opposite corner, opposite side of the field. But I want to hear what it looked like on TV, because I know what it looked like in person.
It looks like Patterson doesn't care.
Okay.
It looked like, and this was actually part of the whole team didn't seem to be going through the motion things. It felt like that was a longer return, especially since they didn't immediately call him down when they should have. Mm-hmm. And it felt like there was a lack of Vikings actually actively trying to tackle him. Like, I saw people get close to him, and it's like, oh, he has a blocker. I'll stand next to the blocker and look like I'm doing something, but not actually do anything.
Okay.
It just looked like a lack of effort on a lot of people's parts on that play.
Okay. But I want to know, I don't care about that. I want to know about how did you not catch that and someone else caught that?
I mean, Bridgewater saw that someone was going to come in. He didn't want to put it, he wanted to put it so that the guy who was going to try to cut in front of Patterson wouldn't get it. Sure. So he threw it a little bit behind, and so it wasn't the easiest catch in the world. It was a little bit behind, but that was by design based on the defense. I think it was a safety coming down.
No, it was cornerback. It was Kyle Fuller.
Well, he's who intercepted it, but
okay.
He was behind Patterson. I think there was a safety that was going to cut in front of Patterson.
Okay.
And so it was a little bit behind and bounced off Patterson's hands. They didn't replay that as much. They just replayed because they had to see if he was down. So
sure.
I didn't see a lot of replays of that. I just saw the replays of his knee touching the ground. But that was the initial impression.
Okay, what it looked like from our vantage point was that it hit Cordero's hands, and the defender's like, thank you, and just grabbed it away. Which kind of has the same feeling to it. And he didn't play again.
Yep.
Not even on returns.
No, he did. Actually, because I saw a tweet about this, and he
was the decoy, or he didn't actually return it, though.
No, he didn't. What they did at least one time, according to Twitter, and
can't trust Twitter.
I probably can't.
I trust it 100%.
But they put Sherrill's back there, and then Peterson was one up from him.
Patterson?
Patterson. But then right before the kickoff, they quickly switched spaces so that Patterson was back again.
Oh.
But teams are very scared of Patterson.
Makes no sense.
And I don't get it.
This ain't 2013 no more.
No.
This is 2014 where you get 18 yards.
Yeah, but they were afraid of him. They kicked it directly to Assinotter repeatedly.
And of course, Assinotter made a brilliant catch instead of letting it go out of bounds.
Yeah.
I read the stupidest stat, I think, in my lifetime. Do you know how good? Let me quiz you, Mr. Bunn. How good do you think Cordero Patterson has been in the return game in this year, 2014, year of our Lord?
How do you want me to qualify it? I mean, I bet he's worst on people who have a certain number of catches. I bet he's, 23rd?
You think so?
Sure.
You think
33rd.
33rd. You're going to go, well, I need a solid answer.
33rd.
33rd, you're going to stick with that?
Yep.
You are horribly inaccurate.
Really?
Yes. He is 5th.
How?
Right? Right? I read that and I was like, that's impossible. Not only does he not return, but when he returns, it's not good.
Just a really terrible year for returns, I guess.
I really wanted to look it up, but I was lazy. I wanted to see who they were above him because it was not good. It was like a 21-yard average.
That's pretty terrible
because
you're normally catching it a couple yards deep in the end zone, so that's not getting to the 20-yard line.
Right. Like, he'll get it 5 to 6 yards deep in the end zone and go. Mm-hmm. So, really, he's getting to the 15. Think about that. Think about the world.
That's a really terrible year for returns. Although, and it seems like, for us, we've started kicking off short because apparently we think we can tackle people before the 20-yard line, but that almost bit us.
Almost, but we have Adam Thielen. We got a Thielen that we can stop him. Ask it. You want to ask it. Go ahead and ask it.
Do you got a Thielen?
That's not what you were going to ask.
It's not?
Nope. You always ask when I say I've got a Thielen.
Oh, have you? Well, see, I don't have to ask because I know the answer. I just about asked, and then I thought, no. You haven't listened to the song because you're a terrible person.
Guess what I did last night?
What did you do?
I did not listen to the song. This is why we need webcam. Because for the brief
Speaking of songs.
You got hope. Yes.
Speaking of songs.
Yes.
You owe me a tribute song for like 2 months.
I feel like it's longer.
It probably is. And you said you had a plan.
I do have a plan.
Well, we're at the end of the season. That doesn't mean we're not going to do these anymore, but it's the end of the season. I think that if your plan extended past the season, it was a bad plan.
I look at it more as the Vikings have a bye for the next 4 weeks.
That's not what it is.
I mean, it's kind of. The season's not over.
It is for them.
They more likely have a bye in the next 4 weeks, and they'll be back in August. They have a bye for the next several months.
In the next 4 weeks, this tribute song will be written and performed.
First off, how dare you think that it's not written?
Is it written?
Oh, it's way more than written, my friend.
Gosh.
Second off, I told you I had a plan. Sometimes we just have to hold hands, close our eyes, and walk blindly into the light.
At this point, this plan better include strippers or something, because this is apparently very elaborate.
Oh, you're
not going to strip.
If you do not...
You are not allowed to be one of the strippers.
Well, I will strip, but that was regardless. If you do not laugh your ass off, I will consider it an abject failure.
Okay.
So, I have a plan.
And we'll see it in the next 4 weeks?
You will see it before the end of postseason.
Okay.
I guarantee.
All right.
Either that or you can have my firstborn child.
I don't want that.
And if I don't have one, I'll buy you McNuggets or something. They're basically worth the same, right?
Sure.
What else you want to talk about with the Bears game? Or last week in general with all these crazy happenings, or as I call them, football games.
I don't know. Boy, Wooten had his robot dance, but we went over that.
Seriously, Twitter was amazing because that gift immediately, that was all over the airwaves.
I'm sure it was. Thielen had his long touchdown, which was really fun to see.
How many touchdown passes does he have?
1.
How many touchdown passes does Cordero Patterson have?
1.
Boom. I think you found your new starting wide receiver.
And that's more than Kansas City's wide receivers combined.
For over a year. Over a year.
That is amazing. They almost had one. Did you see that?
I did see it.
They did the
I
same
did.
thing we did earlier this year, where Felton recovered in the end zone.
Wasn't it? I think it was Bo.
Yeah, Bo fumbled at the half-yard line, and then
Oh, come on. That's like impossible.
it really is. You feel bad for the Homer Kansas City fans that drafted their guys in fantasy football.
No one did that.
Someone drafted Bo.
No one drafted Bo.
Some Kansas City fans drafted Bo.
They should not be in fantasy football then. Except, actually, they should be in our league. I would like to win money off them. That's how I feel about that.
Audie Cole, hell of a game.
Hell of a game.
Don't
worry, he'll be cut in the offseason.
I'm very confused by how
It makes you think about things in a different light? Like men showering,
Well, no, see, I'm trying to follow your rules.
how they look like naked.
I'm curious what their plans are for Audie Cole, because when he gets to play, he generally performs. He did have, I believe, 2 missed tackles, so he's not perfect by any means, but he certainly seems to warrant a longer look.
Okay, this is where you are a contradiction of a human being. Because you just spent a whole bunch of time arguing very vividly about how this team was terrible playing against the team that quit.
And I specifically said Audie Cole was not the guy moving in slow motion.
Sure, but you're praising a guy who had a bunch of tackles against the team that quit.
Well, see, yeah, we shouldn't. I don't want to take too big an impression from this.
The Cutler sack? No, it was a tackle. He just laid down. He literally just said, "See you guys, I'm going to sleep now." He just laid down, and I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
But Audie Cole had a very nice pass defense.
He did.
He had an interception. Granted, I don't know that ball would have been thrown normally.
We never know with Jay Cutler. He could have just handed it to him, for all we know.
Well, I mean, I forget what it was. Was it Robinson that was offside? Or was it actually Wooten? I think it was Wooten now that I think about it. I think Wooten was in and was way offsides.
I don't remember.
Or maybe it was Johnson. I don't care anymore. But he was clearly offsides, and it wasn't quite unabated to the quarterback, but it was pretty clear Cutler didn't have much time. He knew he had a free play, and he just threw it.
Yeah, but when you have a free play, you don't generally just throw it at the line of scrimmage. You throw it deep, trying to make something happen. Dante Culpepper was amazing at that. He made a living of free play, Randy Moss jump ball.
Yeah.
I bet that was in the playbook. Under free play, you hit that tab, move it over. There's one sheet of paper. It says Randy Moss jump ball.
Makes sense.
I would do that every time.
But yeah, who knows what to make of him. Did you see any of Rusi's tweets today?
No.
Patrick Rusi.
No. Were they brilliant as usual?
He pointed out the points scored last season versus this season,
Okay.
and how many more points were scored last season than this season, to kind of laugh at the idea of, oh, hey, Musgrave was terrible and Norv Turner is a genius, and now we have a quarterback that is great. And I know he's kind of trolling because he's ignoring a lot of circumstances, but
He likes to troll.
And he likes to troll. But it is kind of amusing looking at overall. I mean, people have been praising our offense, praising the direction of the team. We scored a lot less points than we did last year.
Come on now. Come on. Don't be a troll. Don't be that guy, Bunny. Come on, sweet cheeks. You have to realize you were missing the greatest running back in the history of the NFL.
Yep.
The greatest running back in the history of the NFL. One who every single play gave you man-on-man, one-on-one coverage. Right? We know that, right?
Yep.
I know we played with Josh Freeman. And I know we played with 17 quarterbacks. But you still had Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I agree. He tweeted it. Was interesting to note.
You also had how many return touchdowns?
No, they accounted for that.
I know, but I'm saying you had a lot last year because you had a real return game. This year you didn't. I mean, you had 2 block punts.
We apparently had the 5th best return game.
Yeah, we had the 5th best kickoff returner. Obviously, when we talk about off-season plans, at least 31 other teams will try and trade for him. I look forward to breaking that down. Yeah, it's just no.
Well, you got anything else?
Let's talk about our franchise quarterback.
Okay.
Did you see those balls he threw? Those beautiful balls. Did you see the one he threw to Greg Jennings that dropped in the end zone?
Yeah.
What did you think of that pass?
It looked awkward because it looked like it was a little bit behind, and so Greg Jennings had to make a weird adjustment to it. It looked very awkward on TV, but I mean, it should have been caught.
It was a fucking beautiful pass that no one could have gotten except for Greg Jennings.
I'd have to see it again before I'd say that.
It was so beautiful. How about the pass?
It just looked like Greg Jennings had to make an awkward adjustment for it.
How about the pass to Thielen?
That was beautiful.
You have a quarterback who's made beautiful throws that you haven't seen since your favorite quarterback, Brett Favre, came to play for us for a year. We pretend
he's not my favorite quarterback. Joe Webb is my favorite quarterback of all time, and he threw beautiful passes against Philadelphia one game, and it was fun.
No, he didn't throw beautiful passes.
They were beautiful passes.
No.
Yes, that game was beautiful.
I love Joe Webb on that game, but we clearly view that game differently. The Eagles imploded and then mounted a comeback where we somehow forced them to stay away long enough. You somehow think that Joe Webb saved the day with his passing skills.
I remember him scrambling and then going flick, and then it was 50 yards downfield, and it was beautiful.
Can you
flick?
We do definitely see this game very differently. How do you feel going into your future in general with a franchise quarterback?
I love it. Now, because I am who I am,
and that's all that you are,
I do feel this terrible, pessimistic need to point out a year ago,
everything is terrible forever.
Threshman was a QB whisperer who was going to completely turn around the Bears. They just had to figure out the defense, and they were going to be a great team.
Sure.
2 years ago, RG3 had a better completion percentage than Teddy.
Sure.
Had all the tools and was the amazing quarterback who, between him and Luck, it was going to be a fantastic duel through the next decade and a half.
Sure.
So, 1 year is not enough to be confident of anything. But I am very excited about our coach and our QB.
Everything is terrible forever. So you have a couple things going against your argument in our small sample size. Okay? The Mark Trestman thing, he had something going for him last year that he didn't this year.
Josh McCown?
Josh McCown. Because Josh McCown is a competent quarterback. He is. He played competently for Tampa Bay. I had him on my fantasy team. Do you want me to pull up his stats?
Your fantasy team stats don't mean crap.
Oh, contraire, mon frere.
Because weird things happen with your stats. What was Tampa Bay's offense overall? It was right around 28th, 27th in whatever category you want to talk about.
That I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I just told you.
You're just guessing, though.
No,
you
I looked
asked
at those
me
stats
and then
a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the defense.
This doesn't give me basically any information.
Regardless, and Cutler
did have a 90 QB rating this year, I think, in the end, which is just ridiculous, and was largely garbage time nonsense. But, I mean, that whole offense was clicking, and it didn't matter which quarterback it was last year.
Josh McCown this year had a 70 rating.
That's
C.
okay.
That's why I'm calling him a competent C quarterback. He passed for 2,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions.
Ooh. I don't know if competent allows for a negative touchdown to interception rating. Did you see Evans' quote after the game?
No, Mike Evans?
Yeah.
No, I don't watch Tampa Bay football.
Well, I don't either, but it was just funny because I don't think teams actively tank that much. I think there's a little bit of it going on, but I think the players especially don't.
Sure.
But Tampa Bay clearly tanked the second half of that game because they were winning.
Okay.
Mike Evans did not play in the second half because he was gassed.
Ooh.
I found that just hilarious. He was gassed for the entire second half of the football game.
It's a little hard to believe, Lovey.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh McCown, before he goes to Chicago, a subpar quarterback, except for the one time he beat us. He goes to Chicago, resurrects his career. He actually had over 100 rating in his 1 year in Chicago.
Yep.
Everyone said you should probably pick Josh McCown over Jay Cutler.
See, some people said that. I didn't say that.
I did. Why did you not say it?
Because I think he was just throwing Hail Marys. I think you could have taken...
Welcome to Chicago Bears fan line. This is the Bun and Sticky speaking.
I think you could have taken Josh Freeman with those wide receivers, that tight end. Because that's what he did in Tampa Bay the 1 year he was good. He just threw Hail Marys, and Vincent Jackson went up and got him.
Who are you talking about now?
Josh Freeman?
Oh, okay. Okay. You said you could have thrown in Josh Freeman, but Josh McCown also played for Tampa Bay, so I wasn't sure which quarterback you were now referencing in Tampa Bay.
Oh. The one I mentioned, Freeman.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, if you watch those games, that's what every pass was. It was just chuck it up. He wasn't throwing with any sort of timing or beautiful pass. It was chuck the ball up.
You don't get 100 rating for just chucking the ball.
Josh Freeman, his
Didn't have a
1
rating.
year, had probably close.
He didn't. No, and you wanted to pick up. You wanted to pick Josh.
I'll say
McCown.
this: do you think Josh McCown has a starting job next year?
No,
So
because Mark Trestman's out of the league. He played in 8 games last year. He completed 10% more of his passes for almost the same yardage. 230 yards per game. 13 touchdowns, 1 interception for 110 rating.
yeah,
Not because he just threw the ball up.
I think he did.
No, you're crazy. You wanted Josh McCown because he has what Jay Cutler does not have. Jay Cutler is the prototypical failure of a quarterback. Because he has very strong arm, right? He can do everything you want him to do. He can do things you want him to do that probably 50% of the quarterbacks, starting ones, can't do. So he's got the special talent. But he's got 0 brains sometimes. He's got those games where he lights it up and he does everything he's supposed to do. But more often than not, he's just an idiot. And he's checking into pass plays when it's a pass defense. Or he's just throwing wildly. That's why you want Josh McCown. Because your team, you get into a problem where if you're just throwing mistakes away, now you want a guy to just come in and not make mistakes. And that's what Josh McCown would have done with Trestman. That's why they should have gotten rid of Cutler, drafted a real quarterback to study under McCown, and just ridden it out a year or two. That's what they should have done. Instead, they picked Cutler because every goddamn owner and head coach does it, and look what happens. They always get fired. Think about this. How many coaches has Jay Cutler gotten fired?
I believe 3.
Shanahan, Trestman, Lovey. That's ridiculous. How many offensive coordinators has he gotten fired?
Who knows?
That's why you got to choose the other one. That's why I think Mark Trestman was smart last year, because he had a guy who had the smarts to be able to do that. That's my small sample size there. This is like the longest story ever to get this a short point. RG3, the thing RG3 had going for him and why his completion were great, because I remember reading about it, that going into his last year in college, that's something he really needed to work on. The reason he was, by and large, good is, I'll call it the Adrian Peterson factor. No, he did not have Adrian Peterson. Psych! But he did have running ability like no other quarterback. Maybe Michael Vick. But he could do things...
Michael Vick, Cam Newton.
Yeah, but...
Cam Newton coming into the league was quite the runner.
Yeah, but Cam Newton was a runner like Dante Culpepper was a runner. He's big enough that you can hit him.
He was a more forceful one, but they still had to respect that and count for it.
RG3 was wiggly. He was Matt Asiata-like. When he would turn that corner, it was over. I wish everyone could have seen your face when I dropped that bomb. Boom! That was awesome. And I hope everyone who listens to this laughs at home.
Joe Webb.
Yes. Just like Joe Webb could run. So you always had man because you had an extra defender trying to spy. We saw Chad Greenway fail at that when we played the Redskins. And he ran for 74 yards to beat us. So you had that problem. But then he blew out his knee. You no longer had to really worry about that, and you could sit in coverage and defend him. That was why that changed so drastically. And then he didn't just hurt his knee, but then he came back and he hurt his knee further. Just was horribly mismanaged by Kyle. Kyle and Mike. Kyle was still there, right? Kyle Shanahan was still the offensive coordinator, I think.
Sure.
That's why those sample size don't really work for Teddy, because he's got a coach and that's not going anywhere. He doesn't have to worry about the quarterback around him or being smart enough. He's that guy. He's Josh McCown for Mike Zimmer. But he's got more talent than Josh McCown. And he's not a running quarterback. He can run. So, for example, when he calls those deep routes, he waits long enough, and if it ain't there, he's learned how to run now. That's good. Yeah. He learned that, obviously, from Christian Ponder.
I mean, there's never going to be two situations that perfectly line up. I'm not trying to say that I think Bridgewater will go the RG3 route or that Zimmer will go the Trestman route. And I understand there are always going to be different issues. I'm just pointing out 16 games is not actually a large sample.
You're right. But the other thing Teddy has going for him is he's a pocket passer. So what RG3 is not what Teddy is. RG3 made a lot of throws from the pocket because the defense had to account for his running. They're not accounting for Teddy running. They don't care about Teddy running. It's more like Aaron Rodgers. Teddy is not Aaron Rodgers, but it's more like it where if that's the only outlet, he takes it. But you want to throw the ball first. That's Teddy. That's not RG3. RG3 was never that guy. That's why I think you're going to have a better success rate in the future with Teddy than you will with those other two scenarios that you so wonderfully put out. You put out? You shouldn't answer that. Will you for me? You should answer that.
No.
You can just tell me privately off the
And it's not, I won't answer it. I will answer that question.
No,
I will not put out for you.
Don't worry. We don't have to talk about it now. Just let me...
I really want to talk about it now, just so that everyone is very clear about it. No, I will not put out for Sticky.
What if I made you some dinner?
No.
Turned up the heat a little bit, rubbed your shoulders, I'll bring in the baby oil.
The baby oil.
Well, I can't just rub your shoulders dry, can I?
No, you can't rub my shoulders, period.
Obviously, I was thinking about that with the baby oil and nothing else.
Yeah. Boy, I just don't even know what to... I do feel very convinced that if I ever hear that you and your wife have a threesome with someone, the third person is going to be another guy.
See, that's inaccurate. If you were involved, I think yes. But I think it only happens if you get to be involved.
What if Zimmer?
That's a tough one.
What if Ponder? You would have a threesome with your wife and Ponder.
No. I could never share Christian with Britt. Never.
Oh, jeez.
He is mine. You just wait. Within the next 24 hours, you are going to see a very, very long Facebook post by me. Not on Sticky's site, on my personal site. Let's just say it's a farewell letter. I've been writing it for a little while.
Oh, boy.
We need to say goodbye.
I'm so looking forward. I never have to see him in a Vikings jersey again.
Never. Don't say that.
I'll say never.
Don't say that.
Because if I find out he's coming back, I'll gouge out my eyes so I don't have to see it.
I will still never forget when you said that we needed to make him sign a contract that he never can wear a jersey again, not even in his own home.
That's right.
What if his wife starts posting pictures of their baby in a Viking jersey? A mini Viking jersey.
I don't have a problem with his baby.
Just him.
Yes.
But his baby's part him. You realize that, right?
I choose to believe his wife cheats on him.
That's so horrible. What about, do you think we could clone? Do you think we could take the smarts and the beautifulness that is Christian Ponder and merge it with the genes of quite possibly the greatest running back in 2014, Matt Asiata, and make the perfect male specimen? Do you think that's possible? And what, if we did that, what position would he play?
This would just be a horrible, horrible thing.
What position would he play? Running back? Quarterback? Halfback? Fullback?
Water boy?
Or do you think he'd jump out of his skin and be like wide receiver?
Water boy.
No.
Equipment manager.
Head coach?
Jock strap cleaner.
Wait, you're telling me that the guy who performed the wiggle all day on Sunday,
once or twice,
and the guy who was clearly our best player in 2000.
No, there's not a year that's going to be that correct.
In 2012.
No.
You're telling me we can't combine them and find a spot on the team?
No.
Okay.
I gave you a spot. Jock strap cleaner.
That's not a spot on the team.
He's not even allowed to clean other things. He's not allowed to clean the jerseys or anything. He's only allowed to clean the jock straps.
Okay. How about this? Here's what we do. We make this person Matt Asiata's legs. Obviously, they know how to churn up turf. We give Matt Asiata's legs. We'll give him the body of Cordero Patterson. We'll give him the arms of Greg Jennings, including the hands. Don't forget that. And the head of Christian Ponder. What position do you play? It's unlimited. You could
pretty limited.
You could play like 5 on 11. Because you could have this. We'll just call this fictitious
Why
person.
are we using this technology to combine these people? Let's combine better people.
Like, who is better than
Teddy.
these players? No, Teddy's perfect by himself. You can't combine him with other people. You're taking the best of these players and putting it into
I'm not sure that there's
superhuman.
a best part of Christian Ponder.
His head.
See, he's too slow to read a defense. Maybe he's book smart, but I think his problem has always been he can't read a defense.
Okay, perfect. I got it. You want Teddy on this? I got it.
Oh, boy.
Okay, same scenario. Okay, everything's the same except for we do Christian Ponder's head, Same arms, same body, same legs, okay? Christian Ponder's head, but we give him Teddy Bridgewater eyes. Now he can see the defense! It's like the greatest football player in history.
Why would that be the greatest football player in history? Why not just go with Teddy?
What couldn't he do? Be honest, what couldn't he do? Nothing. It's a trick question.
Okay, this podcast has gotten ridiculous.
The people are going to be pissed that you're not really answering this.
I think we're ready to sign off.
So, fine. Our next presentation to the universe, we are skipping Wild Card Weekend because nobody cares about Wild Card Weekend. Do you care?
Kind of.
You just told me before we started you didn't even know who was playing.
You're right.
So we're skipping Wild Card Weekend. We're starting with the real playoffs, which is the divisional round, and we'll recap the Vikings season. Then we'll talk about what we think of Wild Card Weekend, and we'll predict going forward that particular week, not the championship. And then we'll have another surprise for you. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Bun? Sweet cheeks?
You're trying to give me nightmares.
Matt Asiata lover. Christian Ponder